Hello and welcome to our third session on this Fatherhood Summit. We've had some fantastic guests talking about everything from faith to marriage to fatherhood to personality styles to work-life balance to the business of finances. We've just talked a little bit about everything. And that is why I love this summit so much, is that I get to talk to experts and people who understand fatherhood and talk to us a little bit about how to be a better father, how to be a better implementer of value. How do we put value into our children? How do we grow up? How do we change the world? And how do we change society? Absolutely love what value these people have brought. And you know what? This session is absolutely no different. Today, I have my friend, a coach, an all-around great man. His name is Terry Burtress. Terry, a.k.a. Coach T. Coach T, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks for inviting me for this wonderful opportunity to share about fatherhood and helping men improve their relationship with not only their spouses, but more importantly, their children.
Man, Terry, thank you so much for being on here. I know you've got a lot of great nuggets of wisdom from your experience in your own life, but not only your experience, but teaching in the school system, being a coach of athletics. I am ready to get started in this. So, Terry, for those people who don't know you, tell us a little bit, kind of the 30,000 foot view of your story, so that we have an understanding of where you're coming from.
Well, Matt, the 30,000 foot view is I am a middle-aged male approaching the age of 50, and my greatest years have been just starting in that since 2015. But, I've gone through a lot, especially with lessons on how to be a good parent and to be there for children, especially those who don't have parents in that, or maybe their parents are a latchkey parent or a traveling parent, and there's things that out there that affect them. I remember my father, but he passed away when I was 5 years old, when I first started kindergarten. And God blessed me with the ability to have those memories of using my photographic memory of what he did to make me feel special and things like that. And, over the years, when I was a teenager, I was very angry because God took my father from me, but I was fortunate to have my grandparents and my mother who were very supportive. And I had those memories of what he did with me that helped me become a better parent. I have no biological children of my own. When I left high school, I remember writing my goals for my life, and I wanted 5 kids. I'm now on my third marriage. I've got 3 stepchildren, one from my second marriage, and 2 right now in this marriage. But I've also been a quote-unquote surrogate parent, or in loco parentis, of thousands of kids through my work at Murray State University in the Department of Housing and Residence Life for 15 years, my work with Boy Scouts, and my work with my fraternity that I'm advisor of. I'm going on my 15th year of that now, as well as those that I've helped out in Little League and things like that. And I've seen a lot of parenting styles, and I've actually helped improve parenting styles. So that's it, in a nutshell. In that is, I'm not the perfect parent, but at the same time, I've been able to glean some wisdom, glean some advice, and also actually put it into effect.
Wow, Terry, I love that. I love that passion. You can hear how much you love and you care for these children who aren't biologically yours. And I think that is one of the things that as dads, whether you're a biological dad, whether you're a stepdad, or whether you're a coach, that you have this important role to play in these children's lives. So, Terry, you've been a coach, a mentor, a teacher, a counselor to a lot of dads. What are some of the biggest challenges that dads face in marriage and fatherhood?
Well, I'm going to approach that from 2 styles. One is the father who it's their natural child, and two, as a step parent or surrogate parent who's the child is not theirs. As a parent, it's easier to build bonds with your children because they're your natural blood. They are there with you in that. Where we get confused with, and I see with a lot of males with their children, is they take the role of the hunter-gatherer more deeply, and they forget to be a father and a parent. And, it's important to pay the bills. It's important to give your children what they need versus what they want. But at the same time, you've got to provide that. And, my dream when I was 18 back in 1987 was I wanted to be a father, and I wanted to be the hunter-gatherer, and I wanted my wife not really necessarily to work, but at the same time, if she wanted to, we could make that happen and everything. As I said, I have no children of my own. However, looking at it from the view, no matter if the kids in your marriage are yours or not, you still need to be a part of the leadership of that family. The mother and the father are the leaders in that family, and you should work together. I actually set a goal each year strictly for my children now. And and I call them my children. I used to argue with a coworker because he'd say, no, they're your stepchildren. I go, no, they're not step anything. They are my children while I'm in that family and that. That doesn't mean I have sole custody. I have to work with their father and their mother, who I'm married to. But at the same time, when I first got married in my second marriage, that was the one that was my first step parenting adventure. And I say it's an adventure because fatherhood's an adventure, no matter what. But I remember what my mom told me. She said, son, you're not only marrying Wendy, you are marrying your son. And you are the father figure in his life. Because at that time, his father figure really wasn't anything but what she referred to, not my mother, but my ex-wife referred to as a sperm donor. He had no presence in my stepson's life. For the 15 years I was married to her, he saw his father in 2000 at Christmas, and the next time he saw him was in 2007. We attended a high school graduation for his uncle, and his father's cousin was there, and he was in attendance. And until my son was 17, he didn't see his father again. So, 3 times in 15 years. And that, and that's where I get my passion from, is because I also see it in Boy Scouts. Is, parents, men get scared because they don't feel like they can live up to it. The ad that's out there. The ad of, it doesn't take a perfect dad to be a good dad. And that's exactly what it is. But like I said, I make goals. I make sure that I do things, it's harder to be a step parent right now because I've got a 21-year-old and a 16-year-old. Now, you try to fit things in, but what I'll do sometimes is I say I want to do at least 2 things with my daughter every month. I want to do 3 things with my son every quarter. Now, my son lives about 45 minutes away, and he's living with his grandmother who's in good health, but he was helping out take care of his grandfather and his grandmother while his grandfather was passing away. So that makes it a little more challenging. But I tell them, no matter what, you can contact me. I will be there to help you in that. And I've left that door open. And, I just have it reaffirmed, had it reaffirmed by my mother-in-law just 2 weeks ago, whenever we were dealing with a situation with my daughter and her biological father. And she said, Terry, she considers you her father more than her father. And to me, that's the greatest compliment anybody could give me. And that's what people told me when I had my first stepson, Nathan. You've been more of a father. And, and I used to do everything with Nathan. I was working full time, 40 plus hours a week, sometimes 60 and 70 in my job because it was a 365, 7 day a week job. But I made sure that every day while he was growing up from 4 until he was 16, and my ex-wife took him and her and moved to the town up the road, that I was going to be a part there every day. I made it an effort to be there for dinner. I made it, and he understood if something came up, but he also saw, I took care of him. I taught him things, that's what a father is. And that's, I see too often that there are men who don't want to make the commitment or are scared to make the commitment. They want to do the deed to make the baby, but then they don't want to make the commitment. And that's what my goal in part of my coaching is to do that, is to help them see their responsibility.
And Terry, I love this mentality that these aren't my stepchildren, they are my children. And when we change that mentality to sit here and say, because when you say they're your stepchildren, you're giving yourself that distance. But when you're saying, hey, you know what, I am their parent, I'm going to value them, I'm going to pour life into them. See, step parents are what I call second chance parenting. And the reason I call them that is because step parents legitimately give these children a second chance of seeing how things should be. Mm-hmm. And I'm speaking a little bit from experience here. And Terry, I know you are as well, because my stepdad is great at this. One of the things, and for your step parents and stuff, like, you guys are creating memories of different things that children are going to remember. There's two big things that I can just off the top of my head think about when it comes to my stepdad, and it makes me smile almost every time. One of the things that he used to always say is, man, if you find a woman half as good as your mother, then you've done all right. And I love that because it was a challenge to me saying, okay, I know my mom is great. She's a hard worker. I was blessed with a great mom. If you listen to my podcast, you've heard my adoption story. Mm-hmm. And so it was a phenomenal thing to be challenged by my stepdad. Not only that, but one of the other things that he did, and I know I'm referring to him as my stepdad. I and my podcast and stuff, I don't drop any names because that's not the important part. But one of the things he used to love to do, and because my sister and I have moved out of the house, we haven't had a chance to do it, is my stepdad would take us trapping every Thanksgiving Day. He would wake us up early and he would take us out, and we would go and we would check traps to see if he had caught anything. Now, it's not so much the act or the skill of trapping that he was trying to show my sister and I. What he was doing during that time is he was sitting here and telling us that we mattered, that we had value, that we were special to him, that we meant something to him, even though we were not his biological children. And so those are a couple of great memories that I can think of about my stepdad. So, Terry, what are some of the best ways for men without biological children to be that great role model and, even a father figure, especially when they haven't had that example in their own life?
Well, I will tell you the best way to get involved is to volunteer for things like Boy Scouts, Big Brother events, volunteering at church if you're a part of a faithful church and they have a youth program. And schools, they'll take anybody that can pass their background check just, to help be a part of the school system, either reading books, coming in and talking about their careers. There's hundreds, or just doing a simple task and showing young men and women what it means to be a faithful servant, and to be even though you don't have your own parent, you can still be a father or mother to a child. I was fortunate. I was in higher education for over 25 years. Still am to a degree with being a fraternity advisor. But like I said, every one of those kids I took as if they were my own. I wouldn't do anything to them, hurt them, or anything without it being something that I would do to my own child. One of the greatest feelings I ever had was just 2 years ago. I had to attend a funeral of one of my fraternity brothers, and he was a president in the fraternity when he was in college, and he had a accident and was killed. And there was about 30 fraternity brothers and associates that were there, fellow friends and that. And each of them, we went out to eat after the visitation, and we're going to go to the funeral. And each of them came up and, and they said, it's like the family's back together and Dad's here and that. And I was like, whoa, hold it. I'm not a dad. I'm a brother. They go, no, you've treated each of us like your own son or daughter, and you've given us advice. You're still here, and even today you're helping to help us get through this and that. And I said, that's just what I am as a human being in that. So, those are just some ways in that. There's hundreds in that. And, you just, I think back as I was growing up, I had some men that weren't even part of my family that I consider my fathers. My high school football coach, my godfather, who I didn't meet until I moved to Tennessee when I was in third grade, but he became like a second dad to me. And then, just my father-in-law now and that. And each of those men have had a different role to play in that. I was fortunate. Like I said, I had my father and my grandfather. And, I didn't have my other grandfather because he actually shot himself in 1963, 6 years before I was born, while he was drunk. And, so those were the only men in my life. I got my uncle who took me, everywhere, and I still have him to this day. But, those were men who didn't have to help me, be there with me, give me advice, to make sure that I was doing what I was supposed to do, getting involved in the community and things like that.
Man, I completely and absolutely agree. Let's talk for a second about, we've talked a lot about how being a dad, being a great dad, understanding your own value, we can implement that into our children, and how, a great role model and a stepdad, how they can implement value into their children. Let's talk a little bit about, as a stepdad, as a role model, what does that do to you when you are willing to take on that responsibility? Because, as a parent-child relationship, there's a benefit on both sides. There's a benefit when that child understands that you're implementing that value into their lives. So what does that do as a step-parent or as a role model to your own life?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It gives me a great pride and sense of knowing that I can love an individual more than myself, that I would sacrifice not only my physical resources or my mental resources, but my emotional resources. And that one there is even tougher because I have had a very challenging life. but to open up and basically give you my heart, to give you my mind, and to give you my soul, just as I did my Savior, Jesus Christ, and to be there for you whenever they come back and they see that and they know that you have given them everything you have, then that right there makes me feel so rich and so proud. And I know that whenever my judgment day comes, I will be told, well done, good and faithful servant. And that's the way I approach not only my family, but my friends too, is, provide more love, support, and value than what, I take in.
Yeah, I would completely agree with you. And, when we were talking to Aaron Walker a couple of days ago, he talked about this idea of living life with success and significance.
Mm-hmm.
That if we don't live a life of success and significance, it's really easy to fall into that depression. Life isn't about making all the money that you can, but also about making that significance. And
Mm-hmm.
that is what is so awesome about being, again, what I call a second chance parent.
Yes. And, I love that term. And, many kids need that second chance parent, that second chance mentor. And I wish more individuals would take the responsibility and to step up and do it, even if, they don't know how. Maybe they've got a friend who is a single mother or a single dad, and they need help taking, possibly taking care of the child while they are going to work or they're doing something else. There's always different ways you can get into it in that.
Yeah, definitely. Again, bringing up my stepdad, one of the greatest things that he showed me is how to stay in a marriage and how to develop that marriage, how to feed that marriage, how to nurture that marriage.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great guy, and not only is he a great guy, but he's a great man for my mom, and that's again something that I love and respect about him. So. Moving to slightly a different subject, you talked a lot about how you were involved in all these different activities, Boy Scouts, fraternities, your own personal job. You've got 3 stepkids, you've got thousands of other kids all over the place. So what is the best way for someone to balance out their work or business and their family?
Well, I'm actually going through that right now, is balancing out things again. And the way that I do it is I look at everything that I'm doing and then I start ranking it and making what's my priority. I live my life by the theme of God first, family second, and everything else third. And you take care of the first 2, the third one will take care of itself. So I consider my fraternity my family. I consider my family my family. Boy Scouts, I consider them my kids, but it's a little different because, I really don't have a child still involved. So starting in 2019, Boy Scouts are going to allow girls to be a part of the scouting experience in what we're calling family scouting. Well, my daughter is 16. One of the things is she's been involved in Boy Scouts since her brother started when he was in first grade. Her mother's been involved in scouting. So, my daughter's involved in Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and venturing scouts, which venturing scouts are the older kids. And she wants to attain the trifecta award, as she refers to it. She wants the gold award, which is the highest award that Girl Scouts can achieve. She wants the venturing award, which is the highest award that a venturing scout can get. And now that she has the opportunity to do what she's been doing since, she was 3 years old, she now gets to have the effect of working towards her Eagle Scout award, which we all know, is the ultimate award for Boy Scouts. I've stepped back. I just had my last meeting as Scoutmaster for my Boy Scout troop this past Monday. I'm moving back to a committee chair because, number one, travel was wearing me down, driving 45 minutes each week, once or twice a week, to do activities with the boys. But number two, more importantly, and the thing that drove it is, I want to be there for my daughter. And the nearest troop for the girls is going to be in Paducah, which is about 15 minutes my way. They meet the same night as my boys do. And I've already opened up to them and my daughter that, if there's a merit badge university or an event they want to go to help them get towards their Eagle, I'll take both of them in that. But I wanted to be there for my daughter in that all through this adventure. I want to be there with her mother and I as we take her through it, not as an overseer, but a supporter in that. Like I said, I schedule things with my fraternity that, that I work around work events, my family, and things like that. But my nuclear family takes priority over my non-nuclear, my fraternity and things like that. And they know that. And, even my fraternity brothers, they've accepted both of my ex-wife and my current wife and basically call her mom too, because we're both involved. And that's the key for anything. My wife and I work together to be the parent and to be a team in this.
I absolutely love that. One of the things that you hit on that I would love to ask you about is, you hit on this idea of priorities, and several other people have hit on it too, that you need to have some sort of list of things that you consider to be important and level of importance. So how important is it to understand your own priorities?
Oh, it's the utmost. And that's for success, not only as a parent or a husband, but in life in general. We can always get out of balance, and we can always get our priorities screwed up if we don't maintain them. It's something that you have to have vigilance on daily, and you've got to make sure, like I said, up until my mother passed away in 2015, that was when I really started to see the power of God first, family second, everything else third. And that's how I live my life from that time forward. And any decision I make, business, parenting, work, I use that mantra as my go-to formula to how I deal with things.
Man, I could not agree more. And I think that as men, a lot of times we get those priorities mixed up. And I was talking to Kent in the last session about how do we make sure that those priorities are right? Because if we don't have those priorities, then we're going to end up with chaos. We're going to end up in a situation where, going and getting the car fixed is going to be more important than our children. Or, we're going to put off stuff with our children, and we're not going to be the dad that we need to be to our children or the husband that we need to be to our spouse. So as we're finishing up here, Terry, what are, we touched on it a little bit in the first question, but what are some of the biggest struggles that men face within their marriage and fatherhood? And how do we as men, how do we fix those?
That's a good question. It's different for each individual. The biggest struggle I have is making sure that I give enough time to what needs to happen versus what I want to happen in that. And that's a very strict line there. I want a very successful business. Well, I can tell you that January 23rd of last year, I put my business on hold for 2 to 3 weeks. And the event that day was the school shooting at my daughter's school. It not only affected my daughter, it affected the children that were in her class, the children at the school, but her Girl Scout troop, the community as a whole. And, I said, how can I make this work? And that it affected my wife because she works at a junior college. And, she had kids coming into her from Marshall County to ask for their assistance. And, I said, making money right now isn't important. Being there, I put my business on hold, and I said, hey, this is my time to give back to the community and to those kids who are right now their world shattered. That's one thing. The second thing is, I have it's very difficult for me to do this. I try to make sure that as a step parent that I don't talk bad about the biological parent in front of the child. Now, if they bring it up, the child, then at that point I'll discuss with them and I'll give them my honest feedback. But at the same time, I tell them, I'm not going to say that you have to believe that, but this is what I feel in that, and that way it's there. The other thing is the idea of teamwork in your marriage. You're not going to be able to be there for every concert. You're not going to be able to be there for every event. That's where the other parent can step in and do that. That is where, you keep up and you try to help each other out in everything. We do a thing where I'll sit down. My family thinks I'm crazy at times, but I'll say, okay, we got to get down and get our events listed out so we know what's going on because things change so quickly. And so we'll put events down. My wife even did a calendar for myself, her ex-husband, of events the kids were involved in when both of them were in middle school and high school. And that helped immensely. And that's another way. So, just teamwork and being there and being available, but at the same time, prioritizing what's the most important and putting, for me, my children and my wife ahead of myself in that.
Oh, and I think in your response there, you brought up a really important subject that's close to a lot of people's hearts in today's world, and that is this idea of school shootings. And it's a tragedy. It's horrible. It's unspeakable. But I wonder if, as men, we understood our own value and we helped our children to understand that value, then there wouldn't be a need for the bullying. There wouldn't be a need for someone to feel like they don't have any other paths out. There wouldn't be a need for them to act out. There wouldn't be this need for them to feel like they have to overpower their bullies. Mm-hmm. And I believe that as men, we hold that power. As men, we can change the fabric of the way our children value themselves and how they value others. And that is one of the biggest reasons that we have this call to step up, to dad up. Mm-hmm. That's one of the awesome responsibilities that we have as dads.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I agree with you totally. But there's another step to it. And that is to open up as a man, let your feelings show, don't bury things internally. And, this is going to sound crazy. Open up that female side of your personality as a male and learn to express those feelings and to do things. That is where I think God has blessed me tremendously. My grandfather was there for me, but he was unsure of how to handle me as a grandchild and a child but my mother and my grandmother raised me, and I have a good sense. My my wife and my daughter now, they make fun of me because I'm not ashamed to cry. I'm not ashamed to address my feelings. I'm not ashamed to think like a female in a male world, because that allows me to open up and to be who I am to these young people and to my role in the family. So I have both. And that's a challenge because most men are raised to not show emotion, not be tough, or to have that macho image, and not to let them see any type of emotion or feeling of a female, or you could be possibly listed, as today's youth say, as gay. And that's not the case. That's you in touch with your feminine side.
Yeah, I completely agree. If as men we understood, and we've talked about a little bit, being a part of that community, a part of that band of brothers, as Justin talked about, being in, Aaron Walker talked about being in the iron sharpens iron mastermind, being in a group of men so that we can be with each other and understand and do life together. That way we can talk, we can communicate. Once we get things off of our chest, then we can completely and fully immerse ourselves into our family. So again, Terry, thank you so much for being a part of this Fatherhood Summit. Terry, talk to us a little bit about the business that you run and how people can get in contact with you.
Sure. I am the founder of Upward Mentoring and Coaching. It's a business of coaches that we focus on men primarily in midlife challenges. However, I don't rule out females in that, because everybody has midlife challenges. Some people call it a midlife crisis. I like to refer to it as midlife challenges. I'm also a paid facilitator with the Rich Way program. It allows me to share my expertise and my story with people across the globe in that. If you want more information about me, I encourage you to go to my website, www.upwardmc, mentoring and coaching, upwardmc.com. You can reach me by email at terry@upwardmc.com. And, I offer personal coaching in just about any area in that. Life in general, career and personal services. I've done quasi-marriage counseling, but marriage coaching. I've done parent coaching. I've done financial coaching. I've done, you name it, I've probably done it or been through it. And I have my own blog called Living the Upward Life. And my goal is to help others to think upwardly instead of downwardly, and to think positively and to make a positive influence in life.
And that's absolutely awesome, Terry. And keep up your good work. I know that you are very passionate about helping people, and especially people going through those midlife challenges. I like that correction of that term. I think too many times that we say something or we're going through something and we put a block in front of it, so that way there's no way around it. We're expected to do it. We're expected to fail. And that is exactly what you're trying to combat. That's exactly what you're trying to change people's minds on. So I thank you for that, Terry. Thank you so much for being a part of the Fatherhood Summit. It is much appreciated. If you guys want more information about what fatherhood and wrestling with fatherhood is all about, you can check out our website at www.fatherhood.com. Again, that's www.fatherhood.com. Also, make sure that you check out our podcast, Wrestling with Fatherhood. You can get that wherever you get your podcasts are. And we look forward to seeing you guys. We've got one more summit left tonight where we will have Dr. Johnny Parker on, and he's going to be talking to us, bringing us a lot of good value. And then tomorrow we will be having a wrap-up conclusion session on which I'm the one speaking. And we will also have a question and answer, which a lot of our experts are being able to come back and give us another hour or two where they're able to answer some different questions that you guys might have. So thank you for joining us. Hope you guys all have a great day.